Kuda and Sandal Bergman. And also another one of the featured dancers, a Tubes alumni, and most importantly, it's her birthday today. Ladies and gentlemen, Shelley Pang. So, Sandal, you have one of the biggest resumes of anybody here tonight. Besides Xanadu, you excelled in comedies, in medieval sword and sandal films, and in late-night Cinemax thrillers. What of all of... I mean, you can admit, you can say if Xanadu, where on that left stretch of all of the incredible stuff you've done does Xanadu fit on your resume?
Probably one of the most fun films I ever did. Can I talk a little bit? As people said before, this movie, guys, was, well, for one, I can't believe it's 30 years. Makes me feel very old, and some of you that are out there must be as old as I am, and I'm in good company, so I feel good. Anyway, it was a total blast to make, but I'm very attached to this movie because I had a life change for me. I was a New York girl. I had been in New York for 10 years, and came out with Bob Fosse's show Dancin', and then was going to leave the show and hang with my sister who lived here. And I got a call to come audition for this film, and I did. I was still under contract with Fosse's show. We were in San Francisco, and I auditioned, and I got the job, which was great, but it was a 3-4 month job for me. That was not my plan. In the midst of that, I got evicted from my apartment in New York, so I was homeless. And so with this film, there's a huge attachment to life change. And I ended up living in LA as life unfolds, doing all those things you talked about, with no plan of that at all. I was just going to hang in LA for a little bit, visit with my sister, and go back to New York. So that was a huge experience for me. The other one that was huge about this movie was I came out to LA from Kansas at 17, and I was fortunate enough to work with Mr. Gene Kelly in his one-man show in Las Vegas when it was the International Hilton. And I was in his show for 3 months in Las Vegas, and that would have been, I hate to say it, but probably 1970, 71. So these many years later, in the 80s, doing Xanadu, I got to see him again and work with him again, and that was fantastic. The other thing, who I want to mention, Kenny Ortega, who's gone on now. We all know him to be a most fabulous director, and he was an absolute joy to work with. He made work fun. My story about Kenny was, I was from New York. Dancers in my day, unlike today, we dance to counts. That's our language. Dancers dance in counts. And I remember being in rehearsal with Kenny, and there was no counting. And I remember always raising my hand like I was in school. Excuse me, sir, excuse me. What is the count? Because the muses, most of the time, we dance together as a group. It was very, very funny. It was a funny experience working with him, and I'm so happy that he's gone on to do such wonderful, wonderful things. So the whole experience was just, somebody used the term a blast. It kept so many dancers and so many of us working. We were employed. I think we were on that movie as muses, I want to say 3 or 4 months. It paid for my car because I couldn't go back to New York. I was homeless. And I actually paid cash for an automobile from this job. It was an unbelievable job all the way around. So thank you all for coming, and I'm so glad you appreciate it because we all really, it's close to our hearts. Thank you.
Muse number 6, and I just want to say what a small Sandal, and actually I went to school with Sandal's sister, Nancy Berman, which is really, because we didn't know each other, but Sandal was iconic. I mean, really, have you ever seen all that jazz? And also you wrote with my Marco, who was a friend of mine, and we'd always hear, and Conan, so we'd always hear about you guys fighting and practicing on automobiles in the parking lot and stuff. But I think the biggest life change for me was, I'd like you to meet my husband because we actually met on Xanadu. And so I have him, because he kind of likes to tell the story, make it brief, honey.
I'll go ahead and do it. All right, here we go. There's a scene in the movie where everybody's roller skating and the big lit stage is lit up all over. These dancers are going wild and they're kicking and they're doing high kicks. And I'm standing back over behind the camera. And when you see that scene, just think of me standing back there watching this. But I see Marilyn Takuda. I've not said a word to her. I haven't ever met her. And she's in a little white cowgirl outfit with white boots and little pop gun on the side. They're doing this like kick, and then they have to pull their pop guns and all fire at the same time. But every time Marilyn does a high kick, her pop gun falls on the floor, and she reaches for it, and there's no gun. So I'm standing behind the camera, and I go, I can fix that. And I grab some tape with the idea that I'm going to get to go up and say something to her, which I really wanted to do, and tape her gun in her holster so it would stay until she pulled it out. And so I go up on the stage and I approach Marilyn, and just as I get to her, a guy slides up in front of me on his knees like he's finishing a number, a dance, and he looks at me and goes, I got it, I got it. And now I'm standing there in front of her. I've never said a word to her before, and I didn't know what to say, so I said, if you'd stop dropping your gun, we could finish this on time and get out of here today. She married me. We've been married for 29 years.
Before we get to Shelley, I would like to ask everyone who's going to be participating in the costume contest to please line up over here on this side of the auditorium. If you are going to participate in tonight's costume contest, go ahead and start lining up. Don't be shy. I know there are people here in costume. I've seen you. You look fabulous. Now is not the time to keep your light under a bushel. It's time to let it shine. So step up, and we have surprises for you. And while you're all getting ready, we will. So it's your turn on the light.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I was one of the dancers. Let's see, what was life changing for me? Well, I met my partner through the tubes, actually. I was in the 80s, 40s, never 40s, 80s, depending on how you add it up. And I ended up going on the road with them for a while, so I became one of the tubes dancers. Yeah, that's pretty thanks to Greg Smith and Kenny Ortega. And let's see, I met a lot of good people in it. People that I still am friends with, as you, Victoria Morris. She and I were actually roommates. And Larry Blunt lived across the street. So, it's a small world. What else can I tell you? I've enjoyed coming. I came the last time. Mark and Heather were so gracious. It really feels good that you enjoy the movie. We enjoyed it. We had lots of fun.